This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this sexy thing, all right, not so sexy, is the Dell Latitude 5400. So the 5000 series for the Latitude is their middle of the road one, which is nice because you get a lot of good features on it, but not the crazy high price tag either for a business laptop. Latitude is part of the business line. Though it might not be consumer level shiny silver sexy, there's a couple of things to really like about this. It starts at $819. Granted, that's with a Core i3 and a 720p display. But even if you configure it up nicely the way ours is with a full HD touchscreen and a Core i5 with vPro and a 512 gig SSD, you're looking at around $1,300, $1,400, and that's without your corporate discounts that most business buyers are going to negotiate. Well, what's so cool about it? It has a matte display, a true matte display, even if you get the touchscreen option. So you don't see that very often. Those of you who hate glare, hey, that's nice. You've also got 2 RAM slots inside. For a 14-inch Ultrabook, usually you see soldered on RAM. So in the spirit of business things that are repairable and upgradable, not only is the M.2 SSD removable as you would expect, you've got 2 RAM slots to work with. And even if you get the lower end configuration for RAM, which is 8 gigs, it's set up with dual channel in 2 RAM sticks that are DDR4. So that's nice to see. Also, there's optional WLAN 4G LTE available on this. We're going to look at it now. So this is an Intel 8th generation Ultrabook with a 14-inch display. Why 8th generation? Because there are no vPro 10th generation CPUs yet. Still a quad-core CPU for the i5 and the i7 options, and you have Intel UHD 620 integrated graphics on board. Like I said, you got 2 RAM slots there, DDR4, you have an M.2 NVMe SSD. Ours is a 512 gig Western Digital. The speeds are decent, not class leading on it, but for the class of laptop that's okay with me. It might look like plastic, but I guess it's carbon fiber because it contains almost 17% post-consumer recycled carbon fiber material. Apparently there's a lot of actually carbon fiber in landfills too, so this is helping the environment, which is always a good thing. It's reasonably light for a clamshell laptop. Again, it's not super duper light. You can see the weight on screen, but it's fine. The displays on this, it is a business laptop, so there's no 4K fancy pants option. There's no pen because it's a clamshell design, not a convertible. Now, we have the 1080p touchscreen, which is really the highest option you can go with this, and that doesn't sound too bad. And to look at it, it's not that bad, particularly, well, the fact that it's matte helps mitigate glare. So the fact that it's not very bright, well, it's okay because there's not much glare to fight either. You know, it's a business laptop. But the color gamut on this is actually not very good, as you can see on screen, but it doesn't look that bad when you look at it. There are screens that look washed out, and this does not. Probably because it has pretty good white balance out from the factory. Contrast on it is reasonably decent, so it's not horrible to look at. And certainly it's good enough to be working on your PowerPoint presentations and your Slack and all the sorts of things like that. Because it's a business laptop, Dell has a bunch of security-minded features here. The fingerprint scanner embedded in the power button, which is a good place to put it. Windows Hello IR cameras available, even a smart card reader, and then they have a variety of software service kind of bundles that you can get with this if you're a corporate buyer. Now, this also has lots of ports. Usually business laptops have more ports than consumer-oriented laptops, but still, there's a good showing here. 3 USB-A 3.1. You've got USB-C Gen 2/Thunderbolt 3 port as well. HDMI 1.4. You've got a micro SD card slot. You'll have a nano SIM card slot if you go with that 4G LTE. Of course, a headphone jack and gigabit Intel Ethernet on board. Also, we have Intel Wi-Fi AX200, which is a Wi-Fi 6 card. Good to see here, especially on an 8th gen platform where that's not something you can take for granted. It's mil-spec rated for dust, vibration, shock. You get the idea. It might not be as rigid feeling as, say, a ThinkPad X1 Carbon, but apparently it's reasonably durable. It also supports fast charging, which Dell calls Express Charge. And if you get the optional 90-watt power adapter, which actually isn't that big and that much more money, then you can charge 80% in 1 hour. Not that battery capacity is bad on this. 51 watt-hour and 68 watt-hour batteries are available with this, and both of those are pretty respectable. Particularly the 68 is better than average. And as you might imagine, something that has a full HD display that's not super duper bright, and this is an Ultrabook with integrated graphics, you get some good battery life with this. We manage 9 to 10 hours with brightness set to 150 nits and doing mixed productivity and some streaming video kind of use. So that's better than average, and a little bit better than we got with the ThinkPad X1 Carbon Full HD as well. The keyboard on this is very pleasant. I've typed really well on it, despite the fact that it doesn't have those ergonomic smile-shaped ThinkPad keys. ThinkPad keyboard might feel a little better, but this one is nice and springy and firm, and I typed really well. No complaints about it. It's backlit in white. And we've got a Microsoft Precision trackpad here with dedicated clicker buttons, and we have the copy of Lenovo's eraser stick pointer there, the nav pointer for those of you who are into that sort of thing as well. We have stereo speakers on board. They're average. They're okay. They're nothing to write home about. Hey, it's a business laptop. How much can you expect? So how about performance and how about heat and noise? Well, it's an Ultrabook. They don't tend to get super hot or super loud. And this one having a carbon fiber / plastic, goodness knows what that stuff is actually made of, bottom on it, and not being super thin, it doesn't really get hot to the touch. Performance numbers on synthetic benchmarks and in real life are quite good, and where they should be at the top of the line actually for Intel 8th Gen Ultrabooks. Decent job there. Getting inside is easy as you'd like for a business laptop. Plenty of ventilation here, by the way. As you can see, we have Phillips head screws, and they are captive screws, which means they will stay in the lid, so you don't have to worry about losing them. Little slits for our speakers there, front bottom edge firing. And then you take that off, and here's what the underside looks like. We got some shielding material and such on there. And there are our 2 RAM slots. Isn't that nice to see? One fan, heatsink right here. If you got the 4G LTE card, this is where it would go. We have an M.2 NVMe SSD slot right here, and it's got a cooler on top of it. Now, Dell also lists a 2.5-inch drive option, a spinning hard drive option. I'm not sure how I would see that fitting in this area. It must be when you get the smaller 51 watt-hour battery, which would make more space for it. That's my guess. We have the bigger 68 watt-hour battery, which does help us get better battery life. And lastly, this is our Intel Wi-Fi card socketed, so yes, you could replace or upgrade that as well. So that's the Dell Latitude 5400. Again, for the price, it's pretty nice. It might not be the prettiest thing that you've ever seen, but it's not actually that bad looking either. You have a lot of ports. You have Thunderbolt 3. You have a matte display, including a matte touchscreen if you want 4G LTE, a very comfortable keyboard, upgradable RAM along with the SSD slot. So there's certainly things to like in this laptop. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos and hit that notification bell too.